everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. It is so good to have you here. Welcome to episode 324. It is Tuesday, October 21st here in 2025. I hope we're all in the same year. I hope you're all doing just so well. We've got a cloudy, rainy, overcast day here, and a very busy week, I must say, but it's so good to have everyone here. Thank you so much for being in chat with us. We've got, I was sort of reflecting on the fact that we have such an international community now, and over the years that has just grown and grown and grown. And so we were sort of looking at like, okay, how many countries do we have in the chat today? So we've got I'm going to make that mistake, Eveline. We've got Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, Canada, and the US, of course. Did I already say Germany? We've got Norway. So yeah, just keep them coming. It's so good to have everybody here. I know we've got a couple of people in our Patreon community who are from Poland, France. I'm trying to think of some of the other places. We've got a couple of people in Chile, Puerto Rico. It's just so good to have everyone here. So thank you so much. Australia, New Zealand. I could just keep going. Anyways, wonderful to have you all here. It has been a whirlwind this fall, and I kind of looked up from all of the craziness this fall and kind of realized that like Halloween is like right around the corner. So I pulled out my pumpkin shirt today, and Zero is joining us on the podcast. He unfortunately, so this is the ghost dog from Nightmare Before Christmas. Unfortunately, when I pulled him out this morning, he has a crack in his head. So I have to be extremely careful with him now because I don't want him to break. So this may be his last opportunity to be drunk from of all the things. We've got Sweden, of course. Amanda, thank you. Yes, we've got a couple of people from Sweden. So I am actually wearing a sweater that I made years ago. This was one of the very first projects that I shared on the podcast. I'm not actually exactly sure when I made it. Now I'm curious because I had it up. I made this in 2016. So yeah, this was right as I decided to do the podcast, sort of like to monetize it, to make it more of a career. It was in June of 2016 that I pressed publish on Patreon, which is just amazing. We've got our 10-year anniversary coming up in June of 2026. And I was working on this. I remember casting it on the day that I hit publish on Patreon. And it was because I just needed to channel some of that anxiety around like, where is this thing going to go? And of course, look at us now. So anyhow, this was a mashup actually. It was Vermont by Hannah. I hope I don't completely ruin her last name, but it's Macy Jaweska. And her Vermont cardigan is an all over lace. And so I'll show you that in a second. And then I mashed it with the Featherweight cardigan from Hannah Fedig, and which was a really popular pattern at that time. So on the back of this is all lace. I'll turn right around. And it's quite long. And I just really liked the lace pattern from the Vermont cardigan pattern. So I bought the pattern and then I used it and sort of put it in with the Featherweight. The yarn that I used is right here, and the reason why I did a little like collage of the yarn was because it was kind of fun to go back and look at this. This was a really nappy roving that had been carded for my friend Lynn Anderson of West Coast Color, and she had got it back from the mill, and they basically like pulverized it. Like it just couldn't be sort of blended properly. It was supposed to be all over heathered. It came out really super nappy. So she sold it off super cheaply. And so I was like learning long draw. I was trying to master my long draw and didn't really, to be honest, I really didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was just trying to figure it out. Reading all the things, looking at all the things, reading the books, watching the videos, doing all the things that we all do when we're on a learning journey. And I just was like, I'm going to use this. It doesn't matter. It's not worth anything. Lynn says it's been sort of wrecked, if you will. I'm just going to spin it. And so I spun it up on I had a shacked sidekick at that time, and I spun it all up, and you can see how neppy it was, and all those bits and bobs of all that color in there. And of course, what ended up happening was I got a fantastic tweed yarn out of it. It's just awesome. And it's pilling a little bit, and there's some roughed up spots. I've worn this quite a lot over the years. It's kind of one of those home, I wear it out a lot, but it's kind of one of those cardigans when I want something warm, I'll just grab it out of my cupboard and pull it on because it's so incredibly warm. It's a 3-ply, and it came out just as a perfect tweed yarn. So super fun. If you want to know more about this sweater, or you want to look at the patterns, I'll throw the link in the live chat and you guys can have a look at it there. Really fun. So that's what I'm wearing today. We have housekeeping to do. So let's have a look at the housekeeping video, just get that out of the way right away, and then we'll get on with the show, because we've got a very full show today. I hope it's not too long. I don't know how people feel. Like, I know some people love really super long podcast episodes, and they're happy to like sit and make and watch, and they kind of treat it like a movie, and it's sort of like an hour and a half, and they're happy to do that. But I know other people prefer YouTube videos that are like 10, 20 minutes long. So what do you guys, I'm not obviously going to be able to produce a podcast episode in 10 or 20 minutes. So it's a little bit of a different thing. It's almost not comparable. But once we hit that like hour mark, how do you guys feel? Like, I know some of you, it gets quite late. You know, I'm curious to know. Dagmar, really good, really interesting comment, because you said that's not pilling, that's tweed. There is actually some pilling on this as well. Like, it's both, but you're absolutely right. Like down here, this is all the tweed. And in here, this is all the tweed. But then where I've got like rub areas, it is actually pilling. It's not the tweedy bits coming out, it's actually the Falkland. Oh yeah, this is Falkland. But really good comment, Dagmar, because you're absolutely right. Sometimes people think that tweeds are pilling, and it's not. It's the tweed. That's how it's supposed to be. So thank you for mentioning that, because you're absolutely right. All right. Oh, Sam, you're so sweet. You can chat all you like. You're so lovely. Okay, let's watch housekeeping, and I'll see you back on the other side. There are some changes coming to the woolen spinning community in September. We are super excited to start sharing them with you. Please ask lots of questions for clarity, and let me know how I can help you navigate it all. Ketchup and Pickles goes out on the 1st of the month each month. They contain all the links and announcements that you need to navigate content and events. Be sure to grab this post when you see it in your email inbox. Color Mania has been released and continues to build on color theory in our spinning. Color Mania seeks to empower you to see and use color in your hand spinning practice, feel confident in the choices you make around color, and to ultimately have fun with color. Released to all patrons in published tiers on Patreon. Check your feed at the beginning of each month. We're at a really exciting time with the Wool Circle, because our Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs is starting the final part of our 2-year study. We will be looking at novelty and art yarns from now until Christmas. Please join Rebecca on the Wool Circle. Look for the free trial. For those supporting in the Silk Circle and above, the first module of Breaking a Braid will release this coming Sunday. I'm super excited to share it with you. And great question that I received last week was about the previous Spinning Pearls content. It will remain on Patreon as previously released. So no worries about access to old content or to previous content. Breaking a Braid will release on Sunday for those in those tiers. And thank you again for your support. Spinning Staples and Queries are dedicated Zoom groups with Rebecca and myself, Rachel, to answer questions, navigate the book study, and discuss in-depth hand spinning concepts. Access a dedicated community of spinners who are exploring their craft and inspiring one another face-to-face over Zoom. Our community groups meet informally throughout the week. Look for the Zoom link in Slack at the time of the meeting. These calls are an opportunity to ask questions, learn about Slack and Patreon, and get help navigating content. The post with meeting link goes live the night before on Patreon. Okay, maker morning. The dates are wrong because I had to move them. So in a very quick nutshell, because I don't really want to go into all the details, another one of my aunts died unexpectedly in September, and my mom and I had to go to a place called Bowen Island, which is a 20-minute ferry ride from Horseshoe Bay, which is just like you drive through Vancouver on Highway 1, and then you go through North Vancouver, and then you go through West Vancouver, and then you get to Horseshoe Bay. And from Horseshoe Bay, you can get to the island, you can get to all these different places, Sunshine Coast, which I've mentioned over the years in the podcast. And for those of you who don't live here, like none of that really kind of means anything, but for those of you who are local and know what I'm talking about, we had to go to Bowen Island, and we had to get some family heirlooms that she had. And actually my mom got a few things that she didn't even know that she had, which was really special. So Maker Morning was supposed to be that Wednesday, and I had to move it. Obviously, Eve very, very kindly stepped in so that we could still host one, but it wasn't recorded and it wasn't like an actual Maker Morning, but I really appreciated her stepping in because I know people were planning on attending. So the dates are all messed up for this month. So long story short, Maker Morning is now this week. Let me just go back to this week. I was looking at the calendar, putting in stuff for like April and May. That is how far ahead the schools plan. Anyways, Maker Morning is on Thursday this week. So not tomorrow, Wednesday, but the next day on Thursday. So there will be a Patreon post that'll come up later tomorrow afternoon with the link for the Maker Morning link. And you can jump in on Thursday morning if you're able, and if you're around, we'd love to have you. It's a lovely time to just sit and do some making, catch up on some stuff. I have some blends that I need to get spun they're just like the last few things that I need to do for the School of Sweet Georgia for next week for filming. So I'll be working on those. Thank you so much, Christine and Evelyn. They both said condolences. I really appreciate that. I didn't know this aunt very well. We had been unfortunately out of touch with her, so it's harder on my mom, and yeah, it's been hard on her. So thank you so much. It's very, very kind. I have a really quick plug for when she is doing so anybody who is Canadian, can you please listen up? And if you are specifically in Ontario, please listen up. So the QR code is there for you to scan on your phone, pull it out, do it while we're chatting now to help her out, or save it for after the podcast. But if you are in Ontario and you are a farmer, or you are a Canada wool professional, and there are quite a few people in our community that consider themselves sort of wool professionals. They have a formal job, if you will, in the Canadian wool industry, and they live in Ontario. So you'd be really helping Wen out. So wenstudio.ca is her Instagram handle. All of this is pinned at the top of her Instagram feed. I offered to just give her a little plug on the podcast just to get the word out, because I know that there are people in the community who live in Ontario and earn part of or some of or all of their income in the Canadian wool industry. So please help her out. She's a master's student at the Toronto Metropolitan University, TMU. And I have a very special place in my heart for TMU because this is where my husband graduated from, and this is his alumni. So yeah, help out Wen, and she'll be just so pleased that you filled it out. I think she's looking for about 150 people. So like Jenny, I'm looking at you. Anne, I'm looking at you. There's a bunch of you. Sasha, I'm looking at you. So do your QR code and fill out her survey and help her out. And thank you for the bottom of her heart and from the bottom of my heart, because the more knowledge and the more studies and the more information that we can collect about the Canadian wool industry, the better, right? The more awareness. It's so important. So thank you to Wen for doing the work, and I appreciate her letting me plug her on the podcast. The other thing that I wanted to mention was Woolen Spinning Radio is released for this month. It is a pretty hilarious episode. We chat about Knit City, Vancouver, which happened at the end of September. Of course, Rebecca was here visiting. And then we get into a bit of a deep dive about the porosity of wool. And because Rebecca still had questions, I love Rebecca's curiosity and her ability to just get curious about things. We had Melissa Goulet of Melly Knits come on the show for November. So you're going to want to listen to this episode first and then catch that episode when it goes live on November 1st. Thank you, Lisa. That's very kind of you to say. All right. I think that might be everything that we need to cover for like housekeeping-ish kind of things. We did that in like record time. It's only 17 minutes after 11. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So let's run the credits and we'll get into the show. That is so lovely, Christine. She said, while I remember one of my older daughter's new housemates is Canadian and she cooked a Thanksgiving meal for the household. There was 4 of them. It was lovely of her. That's lovely. So Canadian Thanksgiving was last weekend, almost 2 weekends ago now, actually. And it's a chance to pause and to be thankful for the fall bounty. That's the purpose of it here in Canada. And we actually did do Thanksgiving this year with my mom. Normally we're camping and we're in the Shuswap, but this year we did have a little bit of a Thanksgiving. We didn't do all the fixins and all the trimmings, but I did make pumpkin pies, and that was really lovely because it's my mom's favorite thing. So I had to do pumpkin pie for her because we haven't done it for a long time. I am not sure where my video is to show you, and I'm wondering if I actually forgot to actually put it in the show. It's been such a crazy week that I probably forgot to put it into my actual like OBS, so I'll add it in just a sec. But I had a really great opportunity on the weekend. So my friend Beatrix, she is local to me. She has a farm out in a place called Glen Valley, which is out near where it's where Diana Twist, who's a member of our community, is also from. And she had a farm tour, and I've got a video and stuff to share with you guys for that. And she hand cranks. I bought a couple of things, and I was being really good. I was like monk-like in terms of my like. What's that, like restraint? But I did buy a pair of socks. And so these are her labels for her socks, and they come like this. And she cranks them on the machine, and she uses the machine for everything. So she uses her machine knitting machine for the contrasting toes, the contrasting heels, the short rows in the heels. And then she does, I actually thought it was a ribber, but it wasn't. She does a plain weave, I'm thinking about weaving because like a knitting machine. Knitting. Plain stockinette up the cuff, and then a turned hem. And she does all of this on the machine. The only thing that she doesn't do on the machine is actually the grafting of the toes, which is really cool. So I had to buy a pair because I loved the colors. They're so pretty. This is actually more gray. This is more correct to what the colors are. And then this is a little bit more saturated. The light's kind of dimming them a little bit. But these size, women's size 6'7", and see if the camera will, there we go. Knit on a vintage circular sock machine, 80% superwash and then 20% nylon. And what I thought was really cool about these, and part of the reason why I was curious and wanted to buy a pair, one, they were really super affordable, but number 2, they're knit at quite a tight gauge, and it would be really difficult to hand knit socks at this tight gauge. So me and Beatrice had a conversation about this and chatted about it, and it just makes me want to get going on machine knitting even more. And I just, time and all of that kind of stuff, I just don't know how I would ever find the time to be able to do that. But one day, you guys, one day. So let me just grab the video for you, and we will do that next. Oh, I also bought some jam. I bought her raspberry jam because my kids go through jam like crazy, and there's local berries, sugar, and lemon in this. And so I thought, let's give it a try. It looked beautiful. I loved the label. It was so fun. So that was what I got. And let's have a look at the tour itself.
If I was to just sit and do it, I could do a pair in just over an hour. Right? Like, it's pretty gorgeous. Yeah, it just kind of crank. And then when you get to wanting to do the toe or the heel, you lift up and it goes back here.
Yay, we're back. Right, Rebecca, oh my gosh, her washed locks, like her washed fleece, oh my goodness, it's incredible. And she sells it, like you can get an entire fleece, but she has like these little like, you know, brown paper bags with it in it, and it's clean and it's beautiful. And a couple of people actually bought for felting projects because they're needle felters, which was really neat. And so I would be interested to see like what they would be doing with that. And then a couple of people picked them up and really wanted to just process a very small amount of fleece, kind of dip their toes in. They have hand guards because I could hear them chatting about it and whatnot. So, oh, Amanda, the sink. Okay, so we're starting renos, and the plumbing and everything and how they've done the sink, because they're renovating this little farmhouse, and it's just the cutest little house you've ever seen in your entire life. And they've been doing it all themselves from scratch, like just slowly chipping away at it. And I just loved how they did the bathroom. Like it was so well done. The sink was so lovely. And then they have this, you know, copper piping coming down with it just was so clever. And I guess just because I've been looking, you know, working with our designer and figuring out what we're going to do and whatnot, it just kind of, I'm noticing these things more than I used to, and it's really neat. So, Lisa says, I didn't realize that was a plastic candle at first and had a visceral reaction to a candle next to fleece. So such a beautiful space. She has just cultivated such a lovely area. And like the whole like farmhouse just has this very like wood burning stove, gorgeous tealy blues, but very blue, you know, with this like just very, you really feel like you're taking a step away from like the urban world is like literally 20 minutes from her doorstep. Like it's, you know, 20 minutes up the road and you're into a very urban area, more like where I live. And it's just, it feels like such an escape. They have done a beautiful job there. They've got a couple of fire pits and they had them all set up with the wood burning stoves running as well. And it was just really lovely, very cozy, very welcoming, very inviting, lovely, lovely to go. All right, let's get on to what we are working on, what I am working on. Our core spinning and boucle and our textured yarn stuff is still ongoing. So make sure that you check out the Wool Circle for all of that. Rebecca is going to do a deep dive next into boucle, which is really exciting. She kind of teased it a little bit last show and talked a little bit about her first experiments, and now she's really getting into it. So just remember that we've got all that textured yarn stuff going on in the background. And I actually, once I finish filming at the School of Sweet Georgia in the next couple of weeks, I've got my core spun sitting, my finished project that I talked about on the show last time. I've actually got it sitting out next to my bed, like looking at me. And I'm going to start doing my gauge swatches and stuff and hopefully get that cast on. All right, let's talk about some yarn that is skeined and finished and done, done, done. Lisa said she saw the boucle on Instagram and it's amazeballs. I totally agree. She did such a good job with that first yarn. Rebecca, we're talking about you. If your ears are burning. She's in chat. She's probably like, wee. Okay, my Bramble Ridge, the Haunnui Fog. It is done. It is done, done, done. It is photographed, it is washed, it is finished, it is done, 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 done. So this was Hastings Sunrise. It was the homage to the neighborhood that Knit City takes place in. This was the Knit City Vancouver 2025 colorway. I wanted to chat a little bit. If you guys have a look here at this skein, I love this. I think it's beautiful. It is so soft and so gentle, and it's very gray. It has a very sort of overall very muted feel to it. And so what I thought I would do is actually show you what this looked like originally. So this was the original braid. And if you look here, and we're going to stop here and pause it here. So if you have a look in the bottom corner there, Megan took that photo, and so I've got the photocopy right on there for her, but that's the color of the original fiber. So the Haunnui Fog is sort of, it's not a true creamy white like what we're quite used to with braids of fiber, where dyers are putting the colors on top of very white, sometimes almost starkly white, because maybe it's been bleached or it's been chemically done, where, you know, there's like bleaching, or there's other chemical processes, or it's been you know, made superwash, whatever it is. We're seeing that less and less, because I think a lot of us in our community are trying to work with braids that are untreated, but still, you know, they can be quite stark white. So that Haunnui Fog, almost, it's gray, but it's very warm. It's a very warm gray. So with this braid, if you look at it, there are places like right above here where Megan left it undyed. But then you've also got slightly muted colors before we've even started spinning. So if you look at like this blue here, that's like this almost neon kind of turquoisey blue, that's the brightest, most saturated color in this entire braid. And then there's some really, really short bits of this kind of purpley magenta, but again, like not full depth saturation by any stretch. And then when I unbraided it, and unfortunately I didn't take any photos because I didn't think to at the time, but the color lengths weren't super long. So because Haunui is a slightly longer staple because of the Romney that's in there that created, it's a Romney Merino originally way back before Haunui was recognized as its own breed. Because of that longer staple, those colors, all of these colors, they blend together, which you can see in the final yarn. So this resulted in, and it sort of putting all of that together and knowing that if you're walking around at a festival like Rebecca and I were, and you see a braid like this, you know that something like this on the shelf, you know, whatever this, you know, whether you're drawn to it or not, and whether you like the muted or not, the finished yarn is going to come out even more desaturated and even quieter and even more muted. And because of all that bluey gray in there, you know going into it that it's going to come out quite gray. And I thought that this was a really great just example of where you've just got like these beautiful colors and this beautiful braid. And if you're looking for something that's a little bit more muted and a little bit more toned down, and you're looking for that color wash almost, this is a great braid to go with. If you are, if you're not expecting it though, you maybe would think that you created mud, or that you kind of wrecked the colors, or that you should have chain plied. I actually think that if this was chain plied, this might sound a bit odd, but I think if this ended up being chain plied, I think in some ways it would kind of wreck it almost. And I don't mean that in like a bad way or anything like that, but you would have ended up with these lengths of like the turquoise, for example, and the magenta. And then you would have ended up with areas that were really, really super neutral and really toned down and really, like gray. And I think by having the barber poling in there and having all that color twisting, especially you can see it right there in that photo there. You can really see it here where you've got all that color twisting and all that, it's called marling. And we've got, you know, especially in that, where that magenta is, you've got three colors twisting together, and it creates this amazing sense of depth and texture and movement in the skein, and it's going to knit up or weave up just really, really beautifully. So a braid like this can be a little bit challenging to work with just because it does come out so muted and so gray. But if you're expecting that, then it's like, oh, okay, like it did what I thought that it would do. But it's nice to sort of take a moment and look at these braids a little bit more closely and be like, what did happen? And what we thought would happen happened. I still think that this colorway is absolutely beautiful. And it reminds me of the colorway that was called, that Megan did, that was called Price of Eggs. It also came out very neutral and very quiet and very subdued. And again, very quiet colors, very neutral. I just love these braids. I think they're beautiful. These aren't necessarily my colors, quote unquote. I tend to be drawn more to the sort of fall, autumn colors, a little bit warmer, but I really love those blues and greens in there, and those teals came out beautifully. So yeah, lovely. So that was a win. I really enjoyed this spin. It was incredibly fast, and I had it finished in just a couple of weeks. And it actually lit a bit of a fire under my butt. And I'm just gonna catch up on chat really quickly. Christine says, I have two 100-gram braids of Haunui in my stash for several years. One's a neutral gray, a natural gray, and one's dyed with rainbow colors, she thinks. And she's pulled it out several times, but she can't decide how to spin it. So I have a bit of the same conundrum. So let's talk about the next spin. Okay, so I started this spin on a bit of a whim because I felt like I'd had such a lovely success with this one. I am really trying to get these braids out of my stash. Like I'm trying to spin them up relatively quickly so that they maybe languish on the wheel for a few weeks or a month, but like they get kind of dealt with relatively quickly. So this next spin was really fun to start. So, and I'm going to get back to your thoughts, Christine, about your little dilemma here, because I'm having some of the same thoughts about this. So this colorway that I'm spinning next is inspired by this photo here. So for those of you who are part of Stash Dashers, this is a Melly Knits thing, and it happens through Tour de Fleece. And this year for Tour de Fleece 2025, so back in July for Tour de Fleece, Dashel, which is this little sheep here, went on vacation. So Megan of Bramble Ridge does the colorways for Melissa every year, and one of the colorways was called Seaside Sheep. And it was Dashel at the sea drinking pina coladas. And this photo just cracks me up. And this is just all of Melissa's sense of humor, like wrapped up in one shot, like one drawing. I just think it's awesome. Marina does her drawings for her. They are so fantastic. So Megan had been doing some, when she was developing the colorways, and there was a second colorway too, and I think it was called Tropical Dashel or Tropical Sheep. I can't remember. And but this one, Megan had these braids at the studio, and I saw them and I said, oh, I really like those, and I love that there's all that gray in there and everything. And she said, oh, those are one of a kind. They didn't come out properly. They're not the right. They're not the right mix of colors for the Dashel colorways. And I said, well, like, I'll take them. I'll spin them up. I love them. I think they're awesome. And she's like, oh, that would be awesome. So her and I are pretty sure that this is Polworth. At first I wondered if maybe when I was stripping it down, it was Targhee, but I'm positive that it's not Targhee. Her and I are 99.9% sure that it's Polworth. It spins like Polworth. It feels like Polworth. It must be Polworth. The other option was that it would be Cormo, but it doesn't feel like Cormo. It's too long stapled. So what I did was I took the two braids and I actually stripped them down. I just kept stripping and stripping and stripping, and I made a whole bunch of really long nests like this one that's in my lap here. I pre-drafted them all, and then I piled them all into one of my baskets, and I actually weighed out 3 piles of fiber. So this is where it comes back to you, Christine. So I've been spinning and spinning and spinning. This is the first bobbin, and I actually have it here. It's wound off. It's finished. I wound it off onto a storage bobbin because I wanted to keep my bobbins freed, because when I'm spinning a big 200 gram plus spin, I like to store the singles on bobbins because I really don't know when I'm going to get this done. They do tend to languish a little bit, and I tend to have to come back to them and put them down and come back to it, and it's sort of a bit of an ebb and flow with these spins. So as I was spinning it and as it was sitting on my bobbin here, I was I started to really think maybe I shouldn't do a 3-ply. Maybe I should do a single of this color. Like, it's very bright. That green, as you remember, I'll go back to the original braids. The green in this is neon. It's very, very, very bright. And even spun up, it's very, very, very bright. When it color twists and marls with the other colors, especially the gray, kind of like what happened in my Hastings Sunrise colorway, it's going to mute it down, and it's going to make it a little bit more muddy. It's going to make it a little bit more, not quite as shockingly green. But then I started thinking, I don't know if I want to do that either. I don't know if I want to take the risk of losing all of that really intense neon green. I'm not sure that I want to necessarily have 3 singles randomly kind of twisting alongside each other. So Christine, what I was sort of thinking about was possibly spinning the other 2 bobbins and winding them off all separately, just because all of it won't fit on one storage bobbin anyways. So I would have 3 bobbins of stored singles. And rather than plying them together, I was thinking very similarly to what Christine, you mentioned in the chat. She said maybe a 2-ply DK-ish, 1-ply gray, 1-ply colored. So I was actually thinking about 1-ply gray, 1-ply white or cream, and doing just the one of Dashel. And so then the Dashel colorway will travel through the entire skein, but then the other 2 singles will be a solid. Just to, well, for a combination of reasons. One, to have some consistency through the whole yarn. It'll still have some striping, so you'll get these sections of the yarn where you'll have all green, all magenta, all gray. The other thing I thought about was just one singles of a creamy white and one singles of this yarn. So the Dashel colorway would travel all the way through, and then having the other one as a singles. If I were to add in another 200 grams of fiber, for example, and do a 2-ply, I would actually have enough to do a plain weave piece of fabric, where every other pick is this yarn, whatever I decide to do with it. And then the rest of the weave, the alternating picks as well as the entire weft the entire warp would be white. And I did this, I have it right here for you. I did this on a sample recently when I was doing an article for Weft magazine. Let me just find it in my weaving book here. And I love this piece of fabric so much. Like so much. And I've showed this before on the podcast because I just keep wanting to wax poetic about it, and I just want to like go on and on and on about it. But it's this here. So this is pick for pick, one color, one white, one color, one white. And you see how it creates like a grid pattern? And then the warp was all white, which you can see from the fringe up here. So this is all the warp up here. So this was a Cormo warp, prepped and spun by myself, and then a Cormo weft pick for pick with the Falkland. Then it's a Nest Fiber Studios colorway called Fiddlesticks from years and years and years ago. We used it in Unbraided in our book, and that's what ended up coming out. And I love this so much, and I want an entire piece of fabric out of it. That's really what it is. So I've been trying to sort of decide, there's two things I've been trying to decide about this piece of fabric. One is, if this is so neon and so crazy colored, I could 2-ply it. So I could take the whole 220 grams and I could just 2-ply it because it's spun finely. It'll work perfectly as weft. I don't have the warp in the weft spun for this, so this would be like a long-term project, but that's fine. But if this was a 2-ply in here, it could be quite finely woven, and you'd still have the movement and the softness, but you'd have a slightly finer fabric than this one. This was set at, I feel like it was like 13 or 14 ends per inch, maybe 15 ends per inch. I can't remember exactly. I have it right here. I could just look. For you weavers out there. Yeah, I set it at 13 ends per inch. So if this was spun a little bit finer and plied as a 2-ply, for example, you'd still get the bright hits of color through here. And you can see how you've got all that color twisting in there. This was a sock yarn. It was a 3-ply sock yarn. But I think I would want to go a little bit finer for a piece of fabric for a shirt, like a lightweight sweater kind of idea is what I'm thinking about. So anyways, I'm just like waxing poetic. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this spin, but Christine, anything you decide to do is going to work. And now chat has blown up and I have to catch up. I really like turquoise and pink together. Whether it's very saturated or more pastel, yes, those are great combinations. Thank you, Lisa. She said the yarns, the colors were a compliment to my rug that I photographed it on. That rug is our huge, massive area rug in our living room. Yeah, so Eveline says white plus gray plus Dashel, so Dashel is this, is going to be very toned down, which I think you like because of the capstone sweater, yes, but I'd be worried that it would get boring. So that's actually, it's funny, Eveline, you must be reading my mind. That was actually what I was concerned about, because if I tone this down too much, you kind of lose the magic of this crazy colorway. So I really like 3-ply weaving with 3-ply in the warp and weft. And one of the things that I really like about this fabric is that the color in this is actually a 3-ply, but the rest of it is a 2-ply. And I think part of what works about this is that the weft, this color weft, is ever so slightly thicker, just like ever so slightly, just a very little bit thicker than the white weft, and it kind of fills in all the spaces. And that's part of what makes this fabric really work. So anyhow, there's so much to think about. So much to think about. Yeah, Eveline said Dashel's Fiddlesticks fabric. So the fabric with the Dashel colorway with a black background would also be awesome. That is a very cool idea. 1-ply Dashel, 1-ply neon green. I could totally get Megan to dye me a braid of the crazy green. Yeah. There's so many options. It's just almost like too much. Yeah. I don't know, Christine, you could do so much if it was one singles of the solid that's running all the way through, because like, you know, you can, if it's a DK-ish weight, like you can do a second, like a contrast color in a sweater, like Metamorphic behind me. There's so many patterns out there that actually that color movement, even toned down, would actually work really super well. I had thought about that, Rebecca. I'd actually thought 2 plies of Dashel, 1 ply of white, just to lighten it up a bit, but then it maybe wouldn't work with the white warp and weft. So I just have to do some sampling, I think. I have to do some sampling. Of course I do, because that's what we always come back to. All right, let's talk about weaving. All right, so my my big, this is done. It's done. Photos are taken. It is off the loom. It is washed. It is finished. I am so unbelievably happy with this. You guys have no idea. Let me make sure I'm showing you the right side. So this is Sweet Georgia yarns. It was originally 200, so it was 2 braids, again, 2 braids of BFL+Silk and I think it was an 85-15%, if I remember, 85% BFL, 15% silk, I think, if my memory serves, in Tofino Roadtrip. So this colorway, as you can see, is very, very washed out, very neutral. It just lends itself perfectly to something like this, where you have a little bit of color competing with the surface texture, but not so much that you completely lose both. I'm really pleased with how this came out. It feels lovely. It has a lovely hand to it. It just squishes like nobody's business. It's just lovely. Has lovely drape to it. I think the one end, actually toward the end, this is toward the end, really the gold just matched up so beautifully, and you can see the movement of the teal in there, the tealy blue kind of sea foam kind of. I love this. So this is an 8-point twill. Let me see if I can find. Okay, so here is, really quickly, for the weavers in the crowd, let me just go through the photos really quickly here, because I just want to show you the draft. Okay, so for the weavers in the crowd, this is trompe as rit. So that means that it's threaded the way that it's treadled. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. And you can see the tie up there is a little bit different from sort of what you would expect for any other twill. The tie up ended up being, when I was doing it, I was sort of trying to figure out like how it was going to work and how this particular pattern worked. But with the tie up and the treadling and the threading, it gives you just this beautiful diamonds. And then what I did was I played a little bit in my weaving software. I use Fibre. I played with some different threading and some different treadling and stuff, and I got some really beautiful results. And then the nice thing about this is you don't have to remember anything. You just have to remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what I did was, as I was weaving it, because I didn't want to mess up, and I didn't want to get to 8 and then get up and walk away, or get to, you know, treadle 5 and get up and walk away. What I ended up doing was I made sure that I did an entire pattern repeat every single time I sat down. So I wasn't allowed to stop until I got back to 1. So I had to go 1 to 8 and then back down to 1 every single time. So I knew that whenever I sat down, I was always on treadle 2. And that really helped me keep myself organized. And it ended up just being a really, really fun weave, and I really enjoyed it. The yarn was a perfect match with the set and everything that I used. So we'll just do a little bit of numbers for those who are interested. This yarn, on average, when I checked it throughout the skein, because I looked at the skein in several different places to get an accurate wraps per inch measurement, was 20 wraps per inch on average. And so I set it, because it was twill, I set it at 13 ends per inch. So it was roughly 2/3 of the set. I probably could have gone to 14, but I really wanted a really drapey, without being gauzy fabric. On the loom, it measured 14 and 5/8 inches wide. 14 and 5/8 inches wide, and it wove to, I ran out of yarn. Actually, I ran out of warp at 67 and 5/8 inches long. And actually, I need to do all my conversions to put it into metric, because I really don't like working in inches. But it's just what I started writing and what I measured. On the loom, it was threaded at 13 ends per inch. It wove up at 15 ends per inch, and it was 14 picks per inch. Yeah. Christine says, I bought my Ashford table loom mostly with 60th birthday money. That's amazing. Last month, the family was very generous. And my mom asked what sort of thing I could make with it. I showed her your Instagram. Oh, taking this off the loom. And she said something like, oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, thank you, Christine. That's lovely that you showed your mom. Yes, Lisa, that is my goal. Soon you'll be able to read twill so well that you will be able to see exactly where you stop. So that is my goal. And actually, as the shafts lift and as I go through the treadling, I really try to watch what's happening with the threads. And even just over the last 6 months or so of doing all these different twills with my hand spun, I've really started to see, okay, this one comes next. And what's really neat about that, and I know Lisa already knows this, so I don't want to mansplain it to her, but for those of you who don't know, as you learn your twills and as you can figure out what is going on in your twill, that then translates to being able to read your overshot, your crackle, your any supplementary weft structure that uses the twill circle, because then you can see, okay, this one goes next, and you can tell when you skip ahead too far because it doesn't look right. The threads don't match. So yeah. Oh, Christine, that's lovely. You're gonna have to make her some more. That's a very subtle hint that she wants you to make. She also mentioned how much she likes and uses the hand woven tea towels. That means she wants some. So I tried to take a quick video of sort of trying to show how drapey this was and how much this this moves. One of the things that I was really trying to create, that I had a really difficult time when I first started making some of these, especially when I was using overshot, and trying to use up some of my stock yarn stash and sort of learn about what I wanted, what kind of fabric I wanted in these scarves and in these shawls or stoles, whatever you want to call them, was to get that movement and was to sort of somehow create that movement. And some of my early stuff from a few years ago, it was just really dense and it doesn't have that movement that I was looking for. So, playing around with set and playing around with, what works and what doesn't work, it's definitely really helping and really working. It just takes practice, and it takes, a little bit of, reflecting after you finish a project. Hey, that doesn't drape exactly the way I wanted it to. What maybe could I have done? What yarns could I have used differently? But so far, the last couple of my hand spun ones, they've worked really well. All right. Okay. Moving on, because we end up being here all day and I start to lose my voice. So thank you for letting me wax poetic about that for a little while. I do have some knitting to share with you. I'm not sure what to do with this project, so I thought we could talk about that for a couple minutes. Darn. Sorry, you guys. I did a Rebecca. And you know what? I have a little sign here that I use, and I forgot to throw it up there. So thank you for your patience. Yeah, so what I was saying was I finished off the bottom ribbing, and I did a tubular bind off. It worked out really well. It is really quite lovely. And this is the back of it sort of, you know, goes along to the back. It's quite lovely. But what I'm not loving is up here in the yoke, I haven't done the upper ribbing up here yet, so I'm kind of hoping that this will kind of cinch it in. But there's a lot of extra fabric, and you can really see it at the back. But you can also like really see it at the front. Like it just feels like there's a lot of fabric. I'm not sure why that's the case. My last one didn't do that. And I'm pretty much knitting it exactly the same. I did start the sleeves. I'm not sure how far I'm going to get with the yarn. So what I'm going to do is actually start knitting the other. I think I'm actually going to get enough. I think I'm going to have enough yarn for both sleeves actually. There's a big knot in this. But like I have so much yarn still to go. So I think I'll probably be able to get both sleeves out. But yeah, it just doesn't, it just feels like there's a lot of fabric in here. So I'll get the ribbing up here done and sort of see if that cinches it in, because the body doesn't feel like there's quite as much fabric, even though I made it exactly the same as my other one. And like I didn't want it to be really super close. I wanted it to be a slightly baggier, you know, sort of a little bit oversized fit. But yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't sort of, I don't know. Rebecca, I probably should block it and try it on. That's probably exactly what I should do. I hate doing that when I've got sleeves like being held. But I probably actually should do what you're suggesting and just see. The thought of ripping this out also is just so overwhelming to me that I just can't even imagine doing that. So I'll probably end up just finishing it and sort of come what may in the blocking. But yeah, it just feels a bit oversized up here. And there's like a little bit of puckering. I haven't had that in a yoke for a long time. I think that's why it was throwing me off. I was sort of like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like I haven't had that. And I'm knitting it, like I said, like basically exactly the same as previously. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I was wondering that, Eveline. That's a really good comment. She said maybe the sleeves will pull the excess fabric a little bit tighter and pull it down so it's fitting. I was also wondering, this feels extremely light. My other one felt like that too. It just feels like there's no like density to it at all. It just feels really, really light, very airy. And it like, I sometimes wonder if that creates like a lack of, like there's like a lack of, I don't want to say weight, but like, well, I guess it is weight, right? To kind of pull on the sweater and pull it into like the shape and where it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's a thing, but it feels like in this case that's a thing. It just feels so unbelievably light. I guess that's it's a good problem to have, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. I'll see. I'll either wash it and block it and just try it on and see what I think. I kind of feel like I've got 2 sweaters now. Let me show you. And of course the, you know, the bottom of the dress form won't like go back properly. It flipped up. I kind of feel like I've got 2 sweaters now because I've got this one as well. This is the Lakes cardigan that I kind of put aside. I feel like I've got these 2 cardigans now or 2 sweaters that are sort of quite far along in their fit, like in sort of their progression. And I'm just not super happy with them. This one, the yoke is so oversized and so big, that I still am not really totally sure what I'm going to do with it. I actually kind of come to the conclusion that I probably am going to have to rip it out. So I'm getting my head around that. It's almost like, in wanting to knit sweaters that are not quite as close fitting, and are a little bit more, have a little bit more ease, because because of the way that my body shape is, I need this space and the ease in my, like in the body of the sweater, but I don't need all of it in the shoulder. So then it ends up being kind of all over too big, if that makes sense. And it's sort of like a new problem to sort of start to navigate. So I'm not sure what to do with either of those sweaters. And then Beatrice was wearing this vintage cardigan the other day at Fibre and Forge at her open studio, and she was wearing it. It was in cream, and I saw it and I just loved it. It's this vintage knitting pattern from Regency Wools in Dublin in Ireland, and it's a free pattern. Like it's not new. She sent it to me, and it's from, it doesn't actually say when it's from. It doesn't have like a published date on it. But it's so lovely. So she had cropped it a little bit and made the sleeves a bit closer fitting. So now I'm like wanting to start that, but I need to stay focused because actually this would be a great pattern for this. And I have a lot of yarn. I have way more yarn than I thought that I did. So I could actually rip this out and do something like that with it. But I did a tubular bind off on the bottom. So I would have to go back and like undo all of that. So I'm not sure. I just have to think about it. I might just have to put these 2 projects aside for a little bit and decide what I'm going to do. Yeah. I want to make a Linda Marvin cardigan, so a cable sweater now. I know, right? So much fun. Ladies and man's cardigan with raglan sleeves. And like Beatrice's was lovely. She was wearing it in that photo that I shared earlier in the show. So classic, so much fun. And Erin, Christine says that's a classic. The first garment I knitted was an Erin cabled slipover. Oh, lovely. Yes, to vintage cables. I totally agree. So really fun. Anyways, so while I've been having this existential sweater crisis, I'm feeling a little bit frustrated and a little bit sorry for myself. And really, these sweaters are just hurting my feelings, and I have to decide what I'm going to do about them. I decided the other night, I just wanted like a little project, like a little thing that was not going to hurt my feelings and was just like fun. Like I just wanted something that was fun. I just wanted like something fun. And so I got completely sneak attacked and I cast something on that I've been wanting to for a long time. So huzzah. I didn't mess up this time. Okay, let me just find, I forgot to load the photo in OBS, and if we take a whole bunch of time and I try to find it and I try to like do the thing and publish and like put it up on the screen, it'll just end up being it'll just take too long. So I started playing around with these lovely little squares from this blanket pattern. So this is by Mallory Crawl. It's called the Opalescent Hygge Burst Blanket, and this is what it looks like, and these are the blocks. And there are these crocheted circles that move into a square. So they start off as a circle. You can see the center of the block there. And then as you crochet your way outward, they turn into a circle. So this is, you can actually, you can buy the pattern on Ravelry as a PDF download, but you can also just go to her website and it's free on her website. So you just have to do a little bit more work if you want to do it that way. And what I ended up doing was I started crocheting these little squares, and I started crocheting and I started crocheting, and they were like really super fun. And let me show you a bunch of them because they are just like to die for. I'm just like completely sidetracked with this. And I started to crochet all these squares. Hang on, there we go. And they started to like really add up. And so then I was like, okay, well, I need to decide what I'm going to do with these squares. So I measured them, and they're 4 inches square. And let me just tell you a little bit about the yarn first. So this yarn was actually also from Bramble Ridge. This was a, what was it? It was BFL, and it was in the colorway Scruff. So I don't know if you guys remember me working on this back in, I think it was back in the spring. It might have even been like the late winter. And I spun it up as a 4-ply because I just wanted to play around with something different. And Scruff because Megan was inspired by men's beards and all the different colors that men's beards can be. And this was the final yarn. And so it was sort of this like DK, not super dense, but you know, very light, very airy. This was the original colorway, like the original braid. I had opened it up on my hand cards and made it really fluffy and really airy, and I broke it up into four batches for singles to do a 4-ply. And I ended up with where's my book? Oh, I don't have my book in here. I left it in the other room. I ended up with 264 yards out of 106 grams, and it was about 1,100 yards per pound. So it was quite light, quite airy. And I spun all of this up, and I just threw this yarn into my stash, and I just thought to myself, I will know what I want to do with this. It's a 4-ply, it's round, it has a really lovely feel. I'll know what I want to do with it when I get there. And so on the weekend, I grabbed it. I was like, 4mm hook, I need 4-inch squares. I'm just going to start using up this hank of yarn. And so I crocheted, I think in total out of that 264 yards, I think I got either 13.5 or 14.5 squares. So I got pretty close to, or I got just over halfway. And if you look right here, this is it that one? No. On the far side, 3 up, you can see that the final round of the crocheted square is the solid color that I'm using for this. So what I ended up doing was I pulled out 2 solid colored yarns from my stash, one that matched the browns in that skein, and this is Kingdom Fleece and Fibre Fin and Silk, and it was quite a high percentage of silk if my memory serves. It was about 20 or 25% silk. And Liz had carded a bunch of it up, and I ended up buying it. And this was quite a few years ago. And so I've been holding this double because this is a heavy fingering. And then I had all of this leftover yarn from a recent, was this Ply or Weft magazine? I think this was Ply magazine, no, Weft magazine. This was a Romney C-Cell blend, 80-20, 20% C-Cell, 80% Romney. And it was Weft magazine. This was the twist directions article. So spinning some yarn S to finish S twist and finishing some to finish Z twist, and does it make any difference in your weaving? This was that yarn. It was for Weft. And I just recently revived that article, like rewrote it for Handspinning for Ply magazine. That's why I was getting confused. And so I supplemented my little, so I used, and I also held this double because it was also a fingering, very light fingering. It was lighter than the other one. And so what I ended up doing, I'll see if I can skip forward to a photo where I have all of them. You can see how the scruff just like had these lovely like movement of color in them. I just, oh, so this is the final photo here. So if I, hang on, let me pause this. Let me move myself up a little bit and then let me go back because this is obviously not paused. There we go. This is the final layout. So I interspersed 6 of the white and 4 or 5, I think, of the solid colored Kingdom fin. And I started attaching them, and I was originally going to use the crocheted method like I did for the Jethro cardigan to attach these, but it actually added way too much ease. We were just talking about ease. It ended up doing the opposite. It made it way too big. So what I ended up doing was I took it out, I ripped that out, and I started to whip stitch them together, which is what Brittany calls for in the pattern. So what pattern am I doing? This, it's the Agnes Sweater Vest by Brittany Lynn. And it's this lovely little pattern here. And this was the pattern that I was trying to show you guys on the last episode, but I didn't want to waste a bunch of time trying to find it because it didn't come up right away. So I've just changed the granny square block in it. So they're the same size, same idea, just a different block. And I am having so much fun. That is the moral of the story. So these are the squares whip stitched together, and that's actually the method that she recommends. She has 2 other methods on her blog, Brittany does, to attach the squares, but it was really the whip stitch one when I went through and looked that I liked the finishing of the best. I'm finding the corners are a little bit hard to navigate, but I think I've kind of figured that out now, and I've got a result that I really like. And yes, she has a tote bag as well, Nicole. That's right. And yeah, I've just been like slowly attaching them, and then I have tons of this fin and silk. So it will be the ribbing at the neckline, the ribbing at the arm, and the ribbing at the bottom. And again, I'll just hold it double. It'll be a little bit denser, and it'll, you know, have that look, a little bit chunky. And I have just been having so much fun with this. It was fun to make all the squares. I had them made in just one weekend. It's only 25 squares. I could see how, depending on your ease and what the size you want to make, she has a free tutorial on her blog. And then there's also the pattern that you can buy to download for the different sizes and whatnot. So I'm using the free tutorial off her blog, which might end up biting me in the butt. But if you buy the pattern online, you get different sizing. So it goes from extra small to 5 times extra large. Whereas on the blog, it just gives you the size that she made for herself. So I'm kind of taking a bit of a leap of faith that it'll fit me. It might end up coming out way too small and I'll have to go back to the drawing board, but fingers crossed that that's not the case. And I can always kind of stretch it a bit when I go to block it. So yeah. Just catching up on chat. I didn't mean to go quiet. I did something similar with leftover 4-ply marled with a Jethro-esque in mind. Used up all my leftovers, blocked the squares, starting the layout. Amazing, Nicole. She says she has at least 12 more that she needs. Yeah, I was kind of feeling like that with this. I got about halfway and I had about 12, 13 squares. And I was like, oh my gosh, I still have so much to do. But they whip up so quickly. And these sunburst squares actually have a lot more... Like there's a lot more crochet in them than there is in like granny squares, for example, but it's not quite as repetitive because every round you're doing something different. So I really appreciated that, having something a little bit more interesting. I was really enjoying that. It's just kind of completely sneak attacked me. I've just been really enjoying it. So Thank you for letting me wax poetic about it, because I love it. Maybe next time I'll be wearing it. I don't know. We'll see. If I'm not, it's because something really bad is gone. That's really has happened. All right. Let's go to, it might take me a minute to set this up because I'm going to be using a slightly different software. So let me just see if I can make this work. Just give me 2 seconds. It's a little bit different from what I'm used to. Okay, and then we'll do community participation. Oh wait, hang on. Okay, I had to use the bathroom. I wasn't gonna get through this without wiggling in my seat, and that's no fun for anyone. All right. My hands are wet. Didn't even bother drying them. Okay, community participation. Let's chat about what you guys are doing, what you're making. So this is from Christine. I'm ready to ply 400 grams of singles. It will become a 2-ply yarn. Standard knit pro tip for scale. Beautiful, Christine. So this is a plying ball. What she's done is she's taken all of her singles and she's wound them together in a 2-ply plying ball to then ply the 2-ply, which is just awesome. I did, Nicole. I expected it to be longer than it actually was. But I couldn't hold it. I was like going to be sitting here going like this the whole time if I didn't go. This is from Kate. First attempt at knitting Shetland lace with my own hand processed spindle spun lace. I am pretty happy, get it, happy, with how this sample hap turned out. Now to prepare a 300 gram lace weight spin. Wow, Kate, that is going to be incredible. And what a beautiful piece of knitting. Like, that is incredible. Just gorgeous. Really well done. I love that. So pretty. Rebecca, cue the Jurassic Park quote. She left us, she left us. I always worry during the podcast, actually. One of my big concerns is somebody coming to the door and then like being able to see and hear me, but not understanding why I'm not coming to the door. Like, I've always sort of thought, oh, I wonder what would happen. There was one time I did have to answer the door because it was the kids' friends. And I think I told you guys I have to go and answer the door. And I was gone for like 2 seconds, but yeah. This is from Eliane. Finished another 1,090 meters, 250 grams of hand-dyed 3-plied Cheviot. This time I used 1 strand of the wool I dyed first, used 5 different colors including yellow, and 2 strands of the leftover dyed wool, no yellow. This is beautiful, Eliane. I love this. I liked this better than the 3-ply without the yellow in it. Next will be to make another 3-ply with 1 strand of the leftovers, the leftover dyed wool, and 2 strands of the 5-color wool. Fun fact, I ended up with approximately 250 grams. Yeah, just beautiful, Eliane. I love this. So effective. I really like that top skein, actually. This one that's right here, I really like that one. This is from Lisa. This is a huge amount of work. Like, well done. All done and washed and hanging out on the line. All the beautiful colors are on the line from Kingdom Fleece and Fiberworks Advent Calendar. The second photo is the last of my candy colored merino. Just gorgeous, 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 Lisa. Love this. I love those reds in there. These ones in here and the purples. Really well done. This is from Dion. She got sidetracked when she was moving some of her fiber around. It's a CYM and white. It's a mix that she did, and she added 1-to-1 more white. She carded the blend 4 times, and she's got approximately 160 grams. This is going to be beautiful. Love it. And then we've got a whole bunch of spindle spinning this time around to share with you guys. There's quite a few things from Kate that I wanted to share with you, and it is just beautiful, and she's done so much work. So I thought it would be kind of fun to sort of like showcase how much she's done over the last little while, because it's just, it's a huge amount of work, and it's really fun to be able to showcase. So from Kate, this is batch 4. It's an ongoing project. Lace weight 2-ply of a hand-processed fleece. And I'm hoping to make a christening robe or a shawl, which would be beautiful. This a little time at home has been spent with many spindling projects getting completed, mainly on Jenkins Turkish, but some support spindles as well. This is batch 1. I had batch 4 first, but it should have been last. Shetland hand-picked with BFL+Silk from Akara Rose. The gray was spindle spun leftover sock yarn. Isn't that beautiful? Her spindles are always gorgeous. Amazing. I love those little mitts. Aren't they cute? Lovely. Batch 2 was Coopworth hand blended with cotton. She worked up a swatch hap and using the rest for ongoing edge tatting project with a little birch shuttle that she whittled from a fallen branch. Isn't that lovely? This little hand whittled shuttle here. Isn't that fantastic? I love that. And then of course her hap that she was working on, just beautiful. Batch 3, I love this photo of your Jenkins here, Kate. That's just beautiful. From the Bramble Ridge 50 grams pink purple with the undyed. I think this was part of her, it's the winter morning colorway, and it's part of our Brie blends and color study that we did earlier this year. Working on a matching muted self-striping crepe sock yarn. Some of the color changes didn't add up very evenly in the second sock, so we'll see how matching the socks end up being. 1/2 is completely plied and on the scale, currently on the first ply of the second half. Beautiful. This is gorgeous, Kate. Kate's spindles are envy-inducing. I totally agree. Look at how beautiful. Yes, she does have herself a spiffy collection. I agree, Lisa. Beautiful. This is from Pauline. Finally, I'm posting some almost finished yarn. The first pick is BFL. The half is fractal and the other half is chain plied. The second pick is a rainbow braid of Texel lamb, split the color into red, orange, blue, greens, and yellows. Support spindling and plied on my wheel. I think that's this one down here. The mini skein is a leftover yellow with some gray Shetland, and then this is spun to practice my support spindling during spindle spun season and Tour de Fleece. And there was a little bit more in the basket, spindle plied, and it will be a 3-ply right here. Untreated merino from Bramble Ridge. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And then we had a whole bunch of fiber prep over the last couple of weeks, which was really fun. This is from Patricia. She's having a wonderful morning scouring a beautiful Romney from her friend's farm close to her in western New York. I've pre-soaked the fiber overnight and did 2 scours and 2 rinses. I'm grateful the fiber is very, very clean. It was coated, almost no VM. That's amazing, Patricia. The fleece is a beautiful gray and so soft. She scoured 1 pound to see how to process, and now she's prepped to scour the remaining 2.5. Amazing. This is from Sadie. Kind of fiber prep, more like fiber re-prep. 2 megabats from Melly Knits, 1 Cormo white with Sari silk, and 1 Corriedale yak silk. So that's, you can see them here in the basket. They were combined. I should probably move myself. Hang on, and then you guys will be able to see. Stripped down to make 14 50-ish gram bats. So you can see how she's got it all organized up in the top here. And then she stripped it down for a final pass, and that was the final one here. Just gorgeous. So she's just basically put the 2 of them together, which is incredible. This was it sort of in the process. Looks amazing, Sadie. I think that's going to come out beautifully. And what a great use of fiber. Now you've got more to work with and find a project for. This is from Elizabeth. I'll just move myself down here. Finally getting this Corriedale fleece. Oh, Corriedale fleece popped for carding. Isn't that incredible? Look at all the locks lined up down here. Isn't that so fantastic? This was my first fleece that I bought in 2023 at Maryland Sheep and Wool. I'm excited to see how this turns out. So one of the things that we were talking about, me and Rebecca and Dion, was actually the amount of waste that we get from lock popping. So everybody wants to know in the general channel of Slack, can you share in your lock popping, do you think you get more waste than you would if you prepped your fleeces differently? We want to know. I know it just like makes my heart sing. Hey, Rebecca, lining up lock popped locks like that. Oh, so fun. Okay, so for weaving, this is from Diana. I thought this was so lovely. First warp in a year. It's her Finn warp spun from a dyed braid that was a Finn llama silk weft that she prepped herself a long time ago. I remember when she was spinning some of this stuff. The Finn warp, I feel like I remember when she was spinning that. It's going to be soft. The pattern is a simple twill, repeated enough and long enough to take advantage of the most yardage of the warp. It feels so good to be weaving again. I bet, Diane, and it looks awesome. So this is her blocking it here. It just looks awesome. And then this is an up close of the fabric. Look how tweedy it is. So much fun. This is from Kim on the theme of finishing things. She washed, hemmed, and got all of the finishing done on her first set of tea towels. Incredible, Kim. 8-2 cotton, plain weave, working on consistency with beading and hitting a target picks per inch. Amazing. They look great. Thank you so much, you guys, for doing, for sharing everything that you do, for doing everything that you do. It means so much. And of course, our community is richer for having you here and for having you share and doing all the things that you do. I don't think I could do all of this. Well, I know I couldn't without your participation, without everything that you guys do. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that you have a really wonderful couple of weeks. Rebecca will be here next week, next Tuesday, October 28th for the wool circle. She's going to be all about the boucle. I don't know if she's going to dress up for Halloween. If the show was right, that was next week, I probably would, but I don't know if she's going to. I don't know if we do. I know they do a little bit for Halloween. Yeah. I'm not sure who MPD is actually, Christine. We would have to ask. I don't know if she meant Mary. Oh, what's her name? Mary Dixon? No, Mary. Oh, help me out, Lisa. Mary. I think that's who she means. From her diction, the weaving dictionary. Rebecca says, I haven't dressed up for Halloween in donkey's years. Well, I don't know. Maybe you'll have to. Well, you could wear your art yarns. There you go. You could wear your art yarns. I'll be dressing up. Anyhow, I hope you guys have a really wonderful couple weeks. If you do go out for Halloween and you've got kids underfoot and you're taking them out, I wish you all to be safe and to have lots of fun. And I will be back here with the regular stream on November 4th. It will be the last one in our house before we move into my mom's. Yes, Margaret Porter Davidson. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, so next show will be kind of special because it'll be the last one in this office the way that it looks right now. So that'll be kind of fun. And I hope you guys have a really wonderful couple weeks, and I will see you in November. And for those of you in the Wool Circle, we will see you next week for the Wool Circle. Bye, everyone.